The massive Vrixian ship entered Earth's orbit on a Tuesday morning. It was sleek and silver with no visible seams or welding marks. The ship looked like it had been grown rather than built. Across the world, humans stopped and stared at screens, showing the alien vessel that was 3 times larger than the biggest human space station. In the United Nations Space Command headquarters in Geneva, Commander Samantha Miller watched the ship with narrowed eyes. She had been chosen to lead the first contact team because of her calm demeanor and sharp mind. At 45 years old, she had decades of diplomatic and military experience. "They're hailing us again," said Lieutenant Gregory Hayes, a young communications officer with bright red hair. "Same message as before. They want to meet our leaders." Samantha nodded. "Tell them we accept. We'll meet them on the horizon." The UNSC Horizon was humanity's flagship, a marvel of human engineering that combined the best technology Earth had to offer. It wasn't as large or as sleek as the alien vessel, but it represented the peak of human achievement in space. 6 hours later, Samantha stood in the Horizon's meeting room with 5 other humans. They wore their formal blue uniforms with gold trim. The room had been prepared with chairs and tables for both humans and whatever the aliens might look like. The door slid open. 3 beings walked in. They moved with perfect precision, their steps exactly the same length. Their bodies were mostly metal and plastic, with only small patches of gray skin visible at their joints and neck. Their faces were partly organic, with metallic plates covering the top of their heads and their right eyes replaced by glowing blue sensors. "I am High Integrator Zix-9 of the Vrixian Collective," said the tallest one. Its voice sounded almost human, but with a slight electronic buzz. "We come in peace to evaluate your species." Samantha stepped forward. "I am Commander Samantha Miller of the United Nations Space Command. We welcome you to Earth space and look forward to peaceful relations." The alien's organic eye blinked while its electronic one glowed brighter. "Your primitive communication methods are inefficient. We will adapt." The alien touched a panel on its wrist, and a hologram appeared between them showing detailed images of Earth cities, oceans, and forests. "We have been observing your world for 63 of your days," said Zix-9. "Your species is at a critical, evolutionary juncture. You have begun to enhance yourselves with technology, yet you still retain your inefficient biological components." Samantha kept her face neutral despite the insult. "We value our biology. Our technology works with our natural abilities rather than replacing them." The second alien, slightly shorter with green lights instead of blue, made a sound like static. "Sentiment. Inefficient. The Vrixians were once like you, attached to our biological origins. Now we are superior in every way." The third alien stepped forward and raised its arm. The limb transformed, parts shifting and reorganizing until it became a complex device. "Observe. This scanning tool can analyze your entire ship in minutes. It was once my arm. Now it is whatever I need it to be." Dr. Alan Nguyen, Earth's leading expert on human-computer integration, watched with interest from Samantha's side. He was a small man with round glasses and quick eyes that missed nothing. "Impressive technology," he said. "May I ask how your systems handle creative problem-solving?" The aliens looked at each other. "Explain creative problem-solving," said Zix-9. "Situations where there is no programmed solution," Alan said, "where you must invent a new approach. We have access to the accumulated knowledge of our entire species," replied Zix-9. "There is no situation without a programmed solution." Alan nodded politely, but caught Samantha's eye. They had noticed the same thing. The aliens had answered a different question than the one that was asked. Zix-9 walked around the room, its metal feet making soft clicking sounds on the floor. "Your ship is surprisingly advanced for beings of your development stage. However, it is still limited by accommodating your biological weaknesses. You need oxygen, you need food, you need sleep." "And what do you need?" asked Samantha. "Power," said Zix-9 simply. "We can shut down non-essential systems when power is low. We do not waste time with sleep or digestion. We process information at speeds your organic brains cannot comprehend." The Green-eyed alien projected a chart in the air. Your fastest computers process information at petaflop speeds. Our bodies process at zettaflop speeds. We are 1,000 times faster than your best machines, and 1,000,000 times faster than your organic brains. Samantha noticed that the aliens seemed eager to demonstrate their superiority. It reminded her of children showing off new toys. "We look forward to learning from each other," she said diplomatically. "Yes," said Zix-9. "You have much to learn from us. The future belongs to silicon and steel, not carbon and water. This is the natural path of evolution for all intelligent species." After the meeting, Samantha gathered with her team in a secure room. Lieutenant Hayes was the first to speak. "They're arrogant," he said. "They have reason to be," Samantha replied. "Their technology is beyond ours in many ways." Alan Nguyen had been quiet during much of the meeting, but now he looked thoughtful. "Did you notice how they responded to questions? Very literal, very precise, but not very adaptable." "What are you thinking, Doctor?" Samantha asked. "I'm thinking they've optimized for speed and strength, but may have sacrificed something important." Alan tapped his temple. "The human brain isn't just about processing speed. It's about connections, intuition, creativity. I wonder if they've lost something in their transformation." Samantha considered this. "So what's our approach?" "Let them underestimate us," said Alan. "They're so proud of their cybernetic enhancements that they don't see any value in what they've left behind. That's a weakness we can use." The next day, the Vrixians invited the humans to tour their ship. Inside, it was a marvel of technology. There were no chairs, no beds, no kitchens or bathrooms. Nothing that catered to biological needs. The aliens simply plugged themselves into wall sockets when they needed energy. "We have existed as a cybernetic species for 700 years, explained Zix-9 as they walked through corridors of gleaming metal. "In that time, we have colonized 12 star systems and uplifted 4 primitive species." "Uplifted?" asked Samantha. "Guided them to cybernetic transcendence," said Zix-9. "As we hope to guide you." Alan and Samantha exchanged glances. The aliens' intentions were becoming clear. They didn't just want to make contact, they wanted to change humanity. As they returned to the horizon, Samantha knew that Earth faced a critical moment. The Vrixians had technology that could help humanity reach the stars, but their vision of the future would mean the end of what made humans human. "We need to be careful," she told her team as they prepared a report for Earth's leaders. "They think they're superior because they've replaced their biological parts with machines. But I think they've lost something important along the way." Alan nodded. "They've optimized themselves for the problems they know. But what happens when they face a problem they've never seen before? That's where humans excel." In the coming days, they would learn just how right he was. 3 months passed since the Vrixians arrived at Earth. During this time, they established a base on the moon and sent representatives to meet with world leaders. Everywhere they went, they showcased their cybernetic abilities. They lifted cars with one hand, calculated complex math problems in seconds, and survived in environments that would kill humans instantly. Commander Samantha Miller sat in her office at UNSC headquarters, reviewing reports from these meetings. She sipped her coffee and frowned at her screen. The pattern was clear. The Vrixians were trying to impress humanity, to make them feel inferior. There was a knock at her door. Dr. Alan Nguyen entered, looking tired but excited. "You need to see this," he said, placing a tablet on her desk. "I've been analyzing the data from their demonstrations. There's something interesting here." Samantha looked at the graphs and charts on the screen. "What am I looking at?" "Patterns," said Alan. "When the Vrixians solve problems, they always follow the same steps. When they face the same problem twice, they use the exact same solution, down to the millisecond. There's no variation, no improvement." "They're not learning," Samantha said, "understanding." "Exactly. They execute programs perfectly, but they don't adapt or create new approaches." Alan took off his glasses and cleaned them with his shirt. They're incredibly advanced, but in some ways they're like very sophisticated computers rather than true intelligences. Their conversation was interrupted by a message. The Vrixians had requested an urgent meeting with Earth's leaders. Later that day, High Integrator Zix-9 stood before the United Nations Council. The alien's metal body gleamed under the lights as it addressed the human representatives. The Vrixian Collective has observed your species for 112 days, it said. We believe you are ready for the next step in our relationship. We propose a series of challenges to demonstrate the objective superiority of cybernetic enhancement over biological systems. The UN Secretary General, a tall woman named Patricia Brown, leaned forward. What kind of challenges? Tests of speed, strength, intelligence, and adaptability, said Zix-9. 7 other species across the galaxy have participated in these challenges. All have recognized the superiority of our way and accepted our guidance towards cybernetic evolution. Samantha, sitting in the back of the room, felt a chill. This was what she had feared. The Vrixians weren't just visiting, they wanted to convert humanity to their way of life. And if we win these challenges? Asked Patricia. Zix-9's organic eye blinked slowly. No species has ever won, but if you succeed, we will share our star charts covering half the galaxy, including locations of habitable worlds. And if we lose, then you will acknowledge the cybernetic path is superior and allow us to guide your species to transcendence. After the Vrixians left, the Earth's leaders debated for hours. Some wanted to refuse the challenge, seeing it as a trap. Others saw it as an opportunity to gain valuable knowledge. In the end, they decided to accept. But they would not send just anyone to compete. They would assemble a team of specialists who represented the best of what humanity had to offer. Samantha was put in charge of selecting this team. She spent weeks reviewing candidates before making her final choices. Captain Daniel Wells, a veteran space pilot whose quick thinking had saved his crew during a solar flare incident. Dr. Olivia Martinez, a physicist with neural implants that helped her visualize complex equations. Unlike the Vrixians, her implants enhanced her natural abilities rather than replacing them. Sergeant Kyle Richards, a Marine with regenerative nano-implants that worked with his body's natural healing processes. Professor Laura Chen, a computer scientist who had pioneered organic computing systems based on how the human brain works. They gathered in a training facility in Colorado. The mountain air was cool and crisp as Samantha explained their mission. The Vrixians have challenged humanity to prove our worth, she said. But this isn't just about winning or losing games. It's about showing them a different path, one where technology and biology work together, instead of one replacing the other. The team began training immediately. Each person had some technological enhancements, but these worked with their bodies rather than against them. Daniel's reflexes were augmented by a neural interface that extended his natural reaction time. Olivia's implants helped her brain process complex data by using her natural visual thinking abilities. Kyle's nano-implants boosted his immune system and accelerated his natural healing. Laura's organic computers learned and adapted the way human brains do. 2 weeks later, the first challenge began. It was held in a large arena built specifically for these events. Thousands of humans watched in person, and billions more viewed it on screens around the world. The Vrixians broadcast it to their worlds as well. High Integrator Zix-9 appeared with 3 other Vrixians who would compete. They had upgraded their bodies for the challenges, their limbs now more streamlined and powerful. The first test is physical strength, announced Zix-9, a simple measure of force application. The Vrixian competitor, a massive being named Krell-7, stepped forward. It lifted a weight of 2,000 kilograms with one arm and held it steady. Sergeant Kyle Richards was humanity's representative for this challenge. He was large for a human with broad shoulders and strong arms. His nano-implants allowed his muscles to work at peak efficiency, but he was still mostly human. Kyle approached the weights. He knew he couldn't match the Vrixian's raw strength. Instead, he had practiced a different technique. He used leverage and momentum, moving with the weight rather than against it. His implants gave him precise control over his movements. He lifted 1,600 kilograms, less than the Vrixian but far more than any unenhanced human could manage. Zix-9 made a sound like static. The human demonstrates inferior strength, as expected. Samantha stepped forward. The challenge isn't over. Strength isn't just about lifting weight once. It's about endurance and adaptation. The next phase of the strength test involved navigating an obstacle course while carrying heavy weights. The Vrixian moved with mechanical precision, following the most efficient path through the course. But halfway through, the course changed. Walls shifted, and new obstacles appeared. The Vrixian faltered, its programmed movements no longer optimal for the new layout. Kyle, however, adapted quickly. His human brain recognized the new patterns and adjusted his strategy. He finished the course first, even though he carried less weight. "How is this possible?" demanded Krell 7. "My strength is superior." "Strength isn't just about force," said Kyle. "It's about using what you have effectively." As they left the arena, Samantha noticed the Vrixians huddled together, their electronic eyes blinking rapidly as they communicated wirelessly. They had not expected this outcome. The next challenge would be intelligence. Dr. Olivia Martinez prepared to face a Vrixian in solving complex scientific problems. But now the aliens knew not to underestimate the humans. The competition had truly begun. The second day of competition dawned bright and clear. Dr. Olivia Martinez stood in the center of the arena, facing her Vrixian opponent. The alien called itself Tech 4 and had a body that was almost entirely metallic, except for a small portion of its brain. Tiny lights blinked across its surface as it processed information. The intelligence challenge was set up on two large screens visible to the audience. Both competitors would solve the same problems at the same time. The first to find the correct answer would win a point. High Integrator Zix-9 explained the rules. You will face 20 scientific problems of increasing difficulty. The problems involve physics, mathematics, and engineering. May the superior intelligence prevail. Olivia nodded. She was nervous but tried not to show it. Her neural implants were subtle, small devices that helped her visualize complex equations as three-dimensional shapes in her mind. Unlike the Vrixians, she hadn't replaced her brain. She had only enhanced her natural abilities. The first problem appeared on the screens. It was a complex equation related to orbital mechanics. Olivia began working through it in her mind, her implants helping her see the mathematical relationships as glowing lines and curves in space. Tech 4 solved it first, its answer appearing on the screen just seconds before Olivia's. The Vrixian made a sound like electronic satisfaction. The second problem was harder, something about quantum field theory. Again, Tech 4 was faster, though by a smaller margin. "The Vrixian processing speed is superior," announced Zix-9 to the audience. "This is the natural advantage of cybernetic enhancement." Olivia took a deep breath. She had expected this. The Vrixians could calculate faster than any human. But calculation wasn't the same as understanding. The third problem appeared. It was different. Not just a calculation, but a puzzle about how particles would behave in an unstable wormhole. There was no single formula to solve it. Olivia closed her eyes, letting her implants show her the particles as if they were dancing in front of her. She saw patterns, made intuitive leaps, followed hunches about how energy would flow. She submitted her answer. This time, she finished well before Tech 4. The Vrixian seemed confused. It had tried to use brute computational force to solve every possible scenario. But the problem space was too large for that approach. The next problem was similar. Another scenario where creativity and intuition mattered more than raw calculation. Olivia won again. As the problems grew more complex, a pattern emerged. The Vrixian won when pure calculation was enough. Olivia won when the problems required intuitive leaps or creative approaches. After 20 problems, they were tied. "This is unexpected," said Zix-9. "We must determine a winner with one final challenge." The final problem appeared. It wasn't a calculation at all. It was a design challenge. Create a system to stabilize a failing star. Tech 4 immediately began, designing a massive mechanical structure that would physically compress the star. Its solution was technically sound, but would require resources from an entire solar system to build. Olivia took a different approach. She thought about how stars naturally balance forces. Her solution used the star's own magnetic fields, redirected, with relatively small devices placed at strategic points. It wasn't perfect, but it was elegant and practical. When the judges, a mix of human and Vrixian scientists, reviewed both solutions, they awarded the win to Olivia. Her approach wasn't just theoretically sound, it was actually feasible with current technology. Tech 4's lights flashed rapidly. This is not logical, my calculations were perfect. Perfect isn't always practical, Olivia said quietly. Sometimes you need to work with nature rather than trying to overpower it. Later that evening, Professor Laura Chen was analyzing Vrixian code in her lab. She had been given access to some of their basic programming as part of the preparation for her upcoming challenge in computing. What she found disturbed her. The Vrixian code was incredibly advanced but also rigid. Their cybernetic enhancements followed strict programming that couldn't be modified by the individuals themselves. They're trapped, she told Samantha when she reported her findings. They've replaced their bodies with machines, but they can't change their own programming. They're like the most advanced computers ever built, but they're still just following their programming. Samantha frowned. So they're not truly free? Not in the way we are, Laura said. Their thought patterns are constrained by their programming. They can learn new information, but they can't change how they think about that information. The next day brought the third challenge, adaptability. This would test how well competitors could handle unexpected situations and solve problems they hadn't seen before. Sergeant Kyle Richards returned to represent humanity. The Vrixian champion was a new individual named Vor 6, who had been specially designed for adaptive scenarios. The challenge took place in a large simulation chamber. Both competitors wore virtual reality interfaces that would place them in various scenarios. You will face 5 crisis situations, explained Zix9. Your responses will be judged on effectiveness, efficiency, and resource use. The first scenario began. Kyle found himself in a virtual space station that was rapidly losing air. The Vrixian, in an identical but separate simulation, was facing the same crisis. Kyle quickly identified the leak and used available materials to seal it. The Vrixian did the same, moving with incredible speed. But the second scenario was trickier. It involved a diplomatic crisis with an unknown alien species. There was no clear technical solution. Kyle relied on his human understanding of body language and emotional cues. He established communication with the virtual aliens and negotiated a peaceful resolution. The Vrixian struggled. Its approach was logical but lacked empathy. The virtual aliens in its simulation became hostile, and the scenario ended in conflict. The third scenario involved navigating a damaged ship through an asteroid field. Kyle's human intuition and ability to improvise proved superior to the Vrixians' calculated approach. By the final scenario, the pattern was clear. The Vrixians excelled at problems with clear technical solutions. Humans excelled at problems requiring emotional intelligence, improvisation, or creative thinking. When the results were announced, humanity had won the adaptability challenge by a significant margin. The crowd of human spectators cheered. The Vrixians stood in silence, their electronic eyes blinking rapidly as they communicated with each other wirelessly. High Integrator Zix9 approached Samantha after the event. Your species continues to surprise us. This is not the outcome we predicted. Prediction is difficult when it comes to humans, Samantha replied. We're unpredictable by nature. This is both your weakness and your strength, said Zix9. We have observed that your enhancement philosophy differs fundamentally from ours. You enhance your existing biology rather than replacing it. We believe there's value in both the biological and the technological, Samantha said. Each has strengths the other lacks. Zix9 was silent for a moment, its lights blinking in patterns. This concept requires further analysis. Perhaps there are alternatives we have not considered. As the Vrixian walked away, Samantha felt a small sense of victory. The competitions weren't just about winning or losing. They were about showing the Vrixians a different path, one where technology and biology work together instead of one, replacing the other. The final challenge would be tomorrow. Captain Daniel Wells would face the Vrixians in a test of piloting skill. The overall competition was tied. Everything would depend on his performance. The final day of competition arrived. The score was tied between humans and Vrixians. This last challenge would determine the winner. Thousands gathered in the arena, and billions more watched on screens around the world. Captain Daniel Wells prepared himself in a quiet room away from the crowds. He was a tall man with calm eyes and steady hands. His neural implants were the most advanced of the human team, designed to interface with spacecraft and enhance his natural piloting abilities. Unlike the other human competitors, Daniel had once been close to death. After a terrible accident, doctors had replaced his damaged spinal cord with an artificial one. He also had implants that helped his heart function properly, but his brain remained fully human, and his implants worked with his body rather than replacing it. High Integrator Zix-9 entered the room. The Vrixian leader moved with mechanical precision as always, but something seemed different. It seemed almost hesitant. "Captain Wells," said Zix-9. "The final challenge will test piloting skills in extreme conditions. Are you prepared?" Daniel nodded. "I'm ready." "You should know that our champion, Axe-2, was specifically designed for space navigation. Its entire nervous system has been optimized for split-second decisions and perfect spatial awareness. I look forward to the competition," Daniel said simply. The Vrixian's organic eye blinked. "You humans continue to surprise us. Despite clear cybernetic inferiority, you maintain confidence. This is difficult to process." Daniel smiled slightly. "Maybe there's more to intelligence than processing speed." The challenge took place in simulator pods that were exact replicas of spacecraft cockpits. The simulators could move and rotate, making pilots feel like they were really flying. The screens showed realistic space environments. Daniel entered his simulator and connected his neural interface. He felt the familiar sensation as the system linked with his implants, extending his awareness to include the virtual spacecraft. Axe-2, the Vrixian champion, entered a similar pod nearby. Its body was streamlined for this challenge, with extra processing units visible on its metallic skull. The rules were explained to the audience. Both pilots would navigate through an asteroid field to reach a space station. Then they would dock with the station, pick up virtual passengers, and return through the asteroid field, which would be even more dangerous on the return journey. The challenge began. Both simulators activated, and the pilots found themselves at the edge of a dense asteroid field. Axe-2 moved immediately, its reactions incredibly fast. It navigated with mathematical precision, calculating the perfect path through the asteroids. Daniel took a different approach. Rather than trying to plot the perfect path, he felt the movement of the ship and the flow of the asteroids. His neural implants helped him process the information, but he relied on human intuition to guide his decisions. They reached the space station at almost the same time, with Axe-2 just seconds ahead. The docking procedure was next. This required careful, precise movements. The Vrixian executed a perfect docking maneuver, its movements exactly matching the mathematical ideal. Daniel's docking was smooth but took a few seconds longer. As they prepared for the return journey, an announcement came through their communication systems. "Attention pilots, the challenge has changed. There is now a solar flare affecting the asteroid field. Magnetic interference will disrupt your sensors and navigation systems. Additionally, the space station has reported that one of the passengers you collected is having a medical emergency and needs to reach medical facilities as quickly as possible." This was unexpected. The original challenge had just become much more complicated. Axe-2 hesitated, its systems recalculating the optimal path with the new variables. The Vrixian eventually chose a cautious approach, moving slowly to compensate for the reduced sensor reliability. Daniel made a different choice. He knew that with a medical emergency, speed was essential. He increased power to the shields and flew directly into the asteroid field. With his sensors partially disrupted by the solar flare, Daniel relied more on visual cues and intuition. His neural implants helped, but it was his human ability to make intuitive leaps that guided him through the chaos. At one point, a large asteroid appeared suddenly from behind another. There was no time to calculate a path around it. Daniel instinctively rolled the ship and slipped through a narrow gap that he sensed rather than saw. He emerged from the asteroid field well ahead of Axe 2 and landed safely at the destination. The Vrixian arrived several minutes later, having taken the safer but slower route. The judges announced Daniel as the winner, giving humanity the overall victory in the competition. The crowd erupted in cheers. It wasn't just about winning a contest. It was about proving that humanity's approach to technology had value, that enhancing biology rather than replacing it created strengths that pure cybernetics couldn't match. After the celebration, Daniel found himself face-to-face with Axe 2. The Vrixian pilot's lights blinked in patterns that seemed to indicate confusion. "Your flying was not optimal," said Axe 2. "You took unnecessary risks, yet you succeeded where my superior calculations indicated caution was required." "Sometimes you have to trust your gut," Daniel said. "Gut? You refer to intuition, decisions, made without complete data analysis." Axe 2's head tilted slightly. "This is considered a flaw in Vrixian thinking, a computational shortcut that leads to errors. Or it's a different kind of intelligence," Daniel suggested, "one that sees patterns too complex to calculate explicitly." Before they could continue their conversation, alarms began to sound throughout the facility. Emergency lights flashed red. Commander Samantha Miller rushed in, her face tense. "We have a situation. Long-range sensors have detected a fleet of ships entering the solar system. They're not responding to hails, and they're on an intercept course with Earth." High Integrator Zix-9 approached quickly, its lights blinking rapidly. "Show me the sensor data." Samantha brought up the images on a nearby screen. The approaching ships were dark and angular, with designs very different from either human or Vrixian vessels. Zix-9's organic eye widened. "Cracks vessels. They have found us." "Who are the Cracks?" asked Samantha. "Our ancient enemies," said Zix-9. "They have been hunting the Vrixian collective for centuries. They must have tracked our delegation here." "Are they dangerous?" Daniel asked, though he already knew the answer from the Vrixian's reaction. "They are relentless," said Zix-9. "They seek to destroy all Vrixian life. And now, because you have associated with us, they will likely target your species as well." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The competition between humans and Vrixians suddenly seemed trivial. A new threat had arrived, one that endangered them both. "How much time do we have?" asked Samantha. "The Cracks will reach Earth. Orbit in approximately 6 hours, said Zix-9. "We must prepare our defenses. This is no longer a competition. Now we must fight together or perish together." Earth's defense forces scrambled to prepare for the approaching Cracks fleet. Every available ship was launched into orbit. The United Nations declared a global emergency, and people around the world watched the skies with fear. In the UNSC Command Center, Commander Samantha Miller worked with High Integrator Zix-9 to coordinate their combined forces. The large room buzzed with activity as human and Vrixian officers shared information and planned strategy. "The Cracks have superior numbers," said Zix-9, pointing to the display showing the enemy fleet. "Their ships are heavily armed and shielded." "What a parade about their tactics?" asked Samantha. "How do they fight?" "They adapt quickly," said Zix-9. "This is why they have been such difficult enemies for us. The Vrixian collective relies on proven, optimal strategies, but the Cracks constantly change their approach. Each time we develop a counter to their methods, they create new ones." Dr. Alan Guyen, who had been listening nearby, looked thoughtful. "So they're creative, like humans." "In some ways," agreed Zix-9. "But they lack your empathy. The Cracks destroy without hesitation or remorse. They see all other life as resources to be harvested or threats to be eliminated." The first attack came faster than expected. The crack's ship suddenly accelerated, reaching Earth orbit in just 4 hours instead of 6. They immediately began jamming communications and targeting defense satellites. The combined human and Vrixian fleet moved to intercept them. Vrixian ships, with their advanced technology, took the lead. They fired precise energy beams that cut through several cracks, vessels. But the cracks quickly adapted. Their ships changed formation and began using the debris from destroyed vessels as shields. They targeted the Vrixian ships with weapons specifically designed to disrupt cybernetic systems. Several Vrixian ships suddenly went dark, their systems overloaded by the cracks' weapons. The humans watched in horror as the cracks broke through the first line of defense. "Our standard tactics are failing," said Zix-9, its voice showing electronic distress. "The cracks have developed new countermeasures since our last encounter." Captain Daniel Wells, who was waiting to pilot one of the reserve ships, stepped forward with an idea. "What if we tried something they've never seen before? A combination of Vrixian technology and human unpredictability." "Explain," said Zix-9. "Your ships have more advanced systems, but they follow predictable patterns. Our ships are less advanced, but our pilots are more creative. What if we linked our systems together, Vrixian precision guided by human intuition?" Dr. Nguyen nodded excitedly. "It could work. We'd need to create an interface between Vrixian systems and human neural implants. That would require direct neural connection to Vrixian networks," said Zix-9. "No non-Vrixian has ever connected to our collective. The difference in processing could damage a human mind." Daniel stepped forward. "I'll do it. My neural implants are the most advanced. If anyone can handle the connection, I can." Professor Laura Chen, who had been working on understanding Vrixian code, joined the conversation. "I can help create the interface, but it would be dangerous, Daniel. The Vrixian collective processes information at speeds that could overwhelm a human brain." "We don't have a choice," said Daniel. "The cracks will reach Earth soon. We have to try something new." The next hour was a blur of activity. Laura and Alan worked frantically to create an interface that would allow Daniel to connect with the Vrixian battle network. Samantha coordinated the remaining ships to buy them time. Finally, they were ready. Daniel sat in a special chair surrounded by equipment. Wires connected his neural implants to the Vrixian systems. Zix-9 stood nearby, also connected to the network. "This will be intense," warned Zix-9. "You will experience the thoughts of many Vrixians simultaneously." Daniel nodded. "Let's do it." Laura activated the connection. Daniel gasped as his mind suddenly expanded. He could feel the Vrixian collective, thousands of minds all thinking and processing together. It was like standing in the middle of a vast orderly library where every book was being read at once. At first, the flood of information was overwhelming. Daniel struggled to maintain his sense of self amid the perfect mechanical thoughts of the Vrixians. "Focus on the battle." Zix-9's voice came through the chaos. "Direct our ships with your human intuition." Daniel concentrated on the space battle, above Earth. Through the Vrixian network, he could see every ship, every weapon, every movement. The Vrixians processed the data with perfect precision, but they couldn't see the patterns that Daniel's human mind could perceive. "There," he said, both aloud and through the network. "The crack ships are moving in a pattern. They seem random, but there's a rhythm to their movements." He began to guide the Vrixian ships, using their precision but adding unpredictable human elements. Instead of following optimal paths, the ships now moved in ways the cracks couldn't anticipate. The tide of battle slowly turned. The remaining human ships joined in, following Daniel's strategy. The cracks, faced with this new hybrid approach, began to falter. But the strain on Daniel's mind was enormous. Sweat poured down his face as he struggled to process the vast amounts of information flowing through the Vrixian network. "We're winning," he gasped, "but I can't maintain the connection much longer." Just as the last major crack ship was destroyed, Daniel collapsed. The connection to the Vrixian network was broken. He woke up 3 days later in a medical facility. Samantha was sitting beside his bed, looking tired but relieved. "Did it work?" Daniel asked, his voice weak. "We won," she said, smiling. "The cracks retreated. Earth is safe for now." "And the Vrixians?" "Changed," said Samantha. Your connection with their network affected them as much as it affected you. They experienced human thought patterns for the first time in centuries. Later that day, High Integrator Zix-9 visited Daniel. The Vrixian moved differently now, less rigid, more fluid. "Captain Wells," it said, "what you did was remarkable. You showed us something we had forgotten, the value of intuition, creativity, and emotion." "And you showed me the value of your precision and processing power," said Daniel. "Neither approach is perfect on its own." Zix-9 nodded, a surprisingly human gesture. "We have much to learn from each other. The Vrixian Collective has decided to revise our approach to evolution. Instead of replacing biology with technology, we will explore integration, as your species has done." In the weeks that followed, humans and Vrixians worked together to prepare for the possibility of the cracks returning, but they also shared knowledge and technology in ways that benefited both species. Dr. Nguyen and Professor Chen worked with Vrixian scientists to develop new forms of human-compatible neural interfaces. These would allow humans to access Vrixian processing power without overwhelming their minds. The Vrixians, in turn, began to explore reintegrating biological components into their cybernetic bodies, parts that would allow them to experience intuition and creativity once again. 6 months after the battle, a new ship was launched from Earth. Named the Unity, it was the first vessel designed and built by both humans and Vrixians working together. It combined the best technologies of both species. Captain Daniel Wells was chosen as its commander, with a crew of both humans and Vrixians. Their mission was to explore the galaxy and find other civilizations that might join their alliance against the cracks. As the Unity left orbit, Daniel looked at his first officer, a Vrixian who now called itself simply Zix, rather than Zix-9. The alien had chosen to have some of its cybernetic components replaced with cloned biological tissue, particularly in its brain. "Ready for the unknown?" Daniel asked. Zix's partly organic face formed a small smile. "I am learning to embrace uncertainty, Captain. As you humans say, that is where the most interesting discoveries are made." Daniel nodded and gave the command to engage the engines. The Unity accelerated away from Earth, carrying with it the promise of a new kind of future, one where biology and technology evolved together rather than one replacing the other. Behind them, Earth and the Vrixian worlds continued to share knowledge and prepare for the inevitable return of the cracks. But they faced that future not as competitors, but as allies who had learned that true strength comes from combining different kinds of intelligence rather than insisting that only one path was valid. The cybernetic aliens had boasted of their power, but when they encountered humans, they discovered something even more powerful: diversity of thought and the wisdom to know which parts of ourselves to enhance and which to preserve.